Okay. Yeah, there we go. That's better. I'm assuming. Yeah, yeah. It was picking up my camera mic. It wasn't picking up my mic. Or rather, my computer didn't want to acknowledge that that one existed. Okay, cool. Well, let's see. Let's get this. Yeah, fuck it. Well, it's fine. Okie dokie. Hello everybody. We now that all the audio issues are out of the way, we might as well just get into it. I'll start this off like I start off all of these. I am James Cheek. I am the voice actor for Hua Cheng in the Donghua Heaven Official's Blessing, as well as the adaptive writer for season 2. And I read volume 6. Haha, and I finished it finally. And so today is just going to be just me talking about the book. These are free form. You know, I just kind of go in and out of things of what I want to talk about, or and then at the very end, I'll go through your questions and answer them as best as I can. um, and I'm assuming that thank you to whomever. Oh, there's a hype train. Oh shit! I don't think I've ever had that happen on a stream. Interesting. You'll have limited time to earn exclusive emotes. Oh my goodness. Um, but oh wow, nice. Thank you. I guess. But yeah, so these are pretty freeform, and I'm assuming that like if you're in here watching, you've already read the books, so I don't necessarily need to recap the story for you, but just for posterity's sake. In Volume 6, Volume 5 ended off with Xielian and the gang in Mount Tonglu region or Tongwu, and Book 6 picks up right where we left off. It's kind of it is the end of that arc, and then it is the beginning of another flashback arc. So it's just him. So it's Xielian and Hua Cheng meandering around, learning some freaky mystery about how the nation that once was in that area has some freaky connections to Xielian and his past, and sort of how his life has kind of panned out. And then White No Face by Wushan shows up, and that was a whole, and that was a freaky thing. Even though he kind of always had the sense that he was around, like I knew he was still around. It wasn't necessarily a surprise. It was just weird because it felt like he was a reflection of Xielian in this. Oh my goodness, hype train. Um, like he felt like a direct reflection of Xielian rather than being who I know him to be. So I don't know exactly how he connects to Chunwo at all, or at least not directly yet. I think I saw something that may have been a little bit of a spoiler, but I don't know exactly how that connects to this point. Other than he's just obsessed with like being some weird Sith Lord thing of being master and student, being evil in the world. Um, and then it ends with Baiwashan showing back up. That he and Xielian getting trapped in the kiln where all the Ghost Kings come out. And then it goes to the flashback, which is the story of Xielian's second ascension, which I did not realize was so close to his first banishment. Like it was almost back to back. I think it was like a couple of months they were on the run or something like that. Yes, the statues, the Cave of a Thousand Gods. That was actually kind of cute, honestly. Like to me, it didn't necessarily feel super creepy, even though it very could have been read that way. The Cave of a Thousand Gods just sort of felt like Hua Cheng was trapped and alone and didn't know if he was going to live or die, and so he just kind of had a project to keep him sane, and he had a bunch of time to kill, so he just yes, Green Day, thank you. I don't stream regularly, at all. And this is not the beginning of like a new regular stream or whatever. I keep the Twitch open for special occasions like this, or things with the cast or something like that. So I really appreciate all the like subs and like hype train and all the other good stuff, but like it's not gonna amount to anything, unfortunately. So just like slow your roll as best you can. But yeah, the Cave of a Thousand Gods just sort of felt like he had time and a lot of stone to work with, and so he just kept working at it, and just eventually made Mecha Xielian, which is really cool. But well, because like beforehand, people were kind of like alluding to it as it being sort of like a creepy deviant art or something like that. And yeah, there's definitely some energy there, a similar energy about it there. But like it honestly, to me in the moment, felt more like he just was alone. He didn't plan on anyone ever seeing it ever again, and he just had a project to do while he was trapped, killing ghosts and becoming a ghost king. So it was just kind of like a mix of like an expression of his love and devotion, but also just he had a fuck ton of time. Because that was the other thing too, is that like there was like that there was a progression of skill where where it started off where like it was clearly, you could tell it was Xielian, but it wasn't that great. And then over time it became like more and more not only accurate, but more and more like stylized and more pretty and stuff like that. Well, it's not his basement, kiss kiss. It's his summer home that he doesn't ever use because there's trauma attached to it. But yeah, and then we met Wuyong. I finally learned who Wuyong was. Or not that I didn't know who he was already, but I honestly thought that like there was going to be more of that. Like I guess we'll get into this now, because as I said, this is all freeform jumping around stuff. But I was really upset. I was really disappointed in how short Xielian's heel turn was. I had he's only bad for like a chapter, and or like half a chapter almost, and and he and he just instantly like backs out. Like he makes the kill switch, and then he instantly backs out of taking it. And it was this thing where like it did feel in line with his character, but I felt like that really shortchanged, that made his like heel turn feel really cheap. Like he did burn down the Yong'an castle, right? It was like the big mansion, and then he he presumably killed a bunch of people. I know he didn't kill the current ruler. Oh goodness, what is his name? It's the same as little ghost boy. What's his name? Not Anla, Lan Yang. Thank you. Yeah, he didn't kill Lan Yang. Lan Yang just kind of like just went mad, and Bai Wuxian had done some messed up stuff to him, turned him into a weird Resident Evil monster. And so he didn't really like it. It felt like he got there's a term that I've heard used before, especially around the time, especially in regards to Game of Thrones and the Game of Thrones show versus the books, where people complained that like the characters were Santa Claused, where they were just like they were like their hard edges were a lot more rounded in the show. Like they were a lot more like nicer or agreeable people in the show than they were in the books, even for the bastards that they were. And like it really felt like Xielian's turn was really blunted. Like it wasn't really that big of a heel turn. He just had like he had one bad day, that, you know, he wandered into Hot Topic and decided to get some guy liner, and like for a weekend, you know, thought he was goth, and then very quickly realized that he was just like a scene kid or some nonsense like that. Like it was just really frustrating to see him give up all that stuff, and then like immediately switch back. So like he felt like he really didn't give it up. He really didn't abandon those beliefs, which, I mean, you know, it's true to the character, but it was just so quick, and I really wish that he had done more during that time, because especially because there seemed to be a lot more like ominous sort of energy around that, around him like Breaking Bad, where, you know, he had done something truly horrible or something like that, because up until now, all the bad things that he had done in his past, like there were extenuating circumstances to all of them. So like they may have been, you know, like a Gilded Banquet's a perfect example, where like he took the blame for a lot more than what he did. He still did some, you know, he still murdered people. So like he still did villainous things, but it wasn't nearly the the crime that people were accusing him for. And this was just kind of like a, I don't know, like a Christian school shooter movie where like he finds Jesus right before he goes in with his AK. I mean, that's a really dark comparison, but it was kind of like that. What are people saying? Why are people saying help? Is it just because of what I said? The analogy. Oh yeah, fair. I mean, it was pretty strong. But yeah, so it was just, so like I really had kind of wished had wished more of that, like not seeing him be tortured, but just seeing him kind of try to like make sense with the world, like having seemingly abandoned all of his principles and all of his empathy, and see sort of how he copes with that. It was cool to see the origins of Hua Cheng. It was actually I think that was like a more interesting story of Hua Cheng than it was of Xielian for me, because, you know, we saw him constantly just sort of like come in and out of the narrative in different forms, and the fact that like he turned into a wrath because people were beating up Xielian. I thought that was one of the coolest things, was like Hua Cheng taking his physical form because Bai Wuxian is like just crushing him, and Xielian is just, you know, getting the, you know, and like Xielian's just being tortured, and so he just like his pure rage is what turns him into a wrath, which I thought was really cool. And then him like being the one guy to show up when he summons all the ghosts was really funny. And him being and him just being this like kind of empty vessel for Xielian. I thought it was really interesting because I think at that time too, like he hadn't really come up with his own identity of who he is or who he wanted to be. He just was going to be whatever he thought like he, you know, Xielian needed at the time. Like he was still pretty immature. And so he just shows up with this empty vessel of like, yeah, I'll just do whatever you want to say. What is this? The price is lower than any competitor. Oh, we got bots. Hey, we got bots. If one of the mods could like take that bot out to a behind the barn and shoot it, that'd be great. Thank you, Green Day. But yeah, so it was really interesting just to kind of see him like inadvertently feed all of the bad impulses that Xielian had at that time. Like he wasn't really protecting him. he was just an extension. Like, he had no identity at that point, which, I mean, his name means like no name or something, so it was really apropos. And I think that was really interesting, as sort of the lowest time for both of those characters, is the moment when Xielian has given up everything that made him that lost and then gave up everything that made him, and then Hua Cheng not taking in any sort of identity and just being this sort of this empty vassal for Xielian. And I thought that was really interesting. I would have loved to have seen more of them. And I think it also like gives some really interesting implications to Hua Cheng's growth as a character, like in between then and what he becomes later, as we see him in the show, where he definitely he's still a simp, he's still whipped, but like he definitely has an ideology, he has his own ethics, he has his own identity in life that he built. And he's kind of found himself, and he's in a position to be a support to Xielian rather than being an enabler, which I think is really interesting. So like that's kind of like the toxic era of the relationship. And so that was really cool. I mentioned this during one of the watch parties for those who have been to it was the last watch party for the show, for those who were in the Discord. And I mentioned that there was kind of I felt like I was missing something when it came to the deaths of his parents, because at this point I was like, I thought it was leading up to Bai Wuxian having done something to Roye to have him kill his parents, like because he had infused it with spiritual energy, and like that was part of the process of Roye sort of gaining sentience, as it were. And so like I thought it was gonna be like he was gonna show up and like it was gonna be directly connected to him in some way, but the way that and that could still be the case, but the way that Xielian reacted to it was that it was like his parents just couldn't cope not being royalty and being on the run, and so he and so then like it was just too much for them, which that makes sense, like that makes kind of a logical sense. But leading up to that, like there was this thing going on with Fengxin, where like he was taking care of his parents, and then when he left, there was clearly something that he was dealing with specifically that they were keeping from Xielian that he just wasn't paying attention to. I know his dad was dying, like his dad was sick, and that's what I kind of thought too. Like I felt like it was a I'm gonna go out with dignity rather than just sort of like waste away because I'm a king. And that makes sense for his father, and then like his mother just not being able to live without him in some way because she just didn't have the wherewithal. That makes like, that's like a narrative trope that happens, but it just feels like there's some piece of information that is that like of that full context, where it's like part of it is the fact they couldn't go on any longer, like they were in that place themselves, that dark of a place themselves, where they just wanted it to end. I feel sort of like his mother died because she didn't want to trouble Xielian. Yeah, that Queen of Pirates, that actually sounds like a Xielian thing, and that sounds like something that his mother would do, based off of like how we know how they interact. where he seems to be very much like he seems to have a lot of his mother in him. So I could totally see that, and that being just this sort of like this very death of a salesman misguided attempt at kindness or empathy or something. But I don't know. We don't have the full story, or it doesn't feel like we have the full story. So it is a bit frustrating. And then the I also like him, like the traumatic stabbing that he had, where everybody was like running him through. That was also kind of weird to me too. Not because it wasn't awful, like it was, but it also didn't. I didn't see how it challenged Xielian's assumption that like people are worth saving. Because because how you because like because he's functionally immortal in that body, and so sacrificing himself to make sure that everybody could be okay, or to not get infected, like that sounds like something that he would do. Like up until this point, that sounds like something that he would give up to let people to make sure that other people would be okay. So it didn't seem like, and then the conversation with the people amongst themselves was interesting, where there were people who were like, no, I'm not going to do this because I think it's crap. And then other people wanting to do it. And then they all died anyway, which sucks. But like there wasn't, and then it also like that moment gets further undercut when later he's like telling people to stab him so that they don't get infected. Like he's offering that himself, and like Baiwushan's like, oh, you want to go through that again? And it's just like that whole his the ideological attack on Xielian's like worldview, and like because that's really the crux of between him and Baiwushan, is that like they're like it's just that one of them is given up on on life and like everyone's evil, and the other one hasn't given up on life essentially. And so it's an ideological battle between the two of them. Like it's he's trying to disprove, he's trying to like galaxy brain dude bro himself, like Xielian into believing his worldview. Yeah, like it was very weird. But I didn't see how, I don't see how that really challenges Xielian's point of view. Like I think the officials like kicking him out of the cultivation valley, I think was more of an affront to how he understood the world than the pincushion moment, because that was a moment where, one, he was betrayed by people whom had once respected him, and then he saw just how quickly people could dismiss him, like as soon as he really fucked up. And even then he didn't, he almost fucks up all the time. It's rather frustrating. I want him to actually fuck up. But like he almost robs a guy, and then which I think was that I thought was good, because that just led to more tension with the other officials, because they're treating him as if he had done it, and he's just like, I didn't though. And yeah, I was like, it was just one of those things where like I was at a low place, I almost did it, but I didn't do it. Stop treating me like I did do it. And oh hey, Kieran's here, cool. But yeah, so like that, and then just how quickly they all turned on him, and just sort of, and seeing how shitty the heavens are, because he spent his whole life trying to get there, and his life was so perfect and easy. When he got there, it was still perfect and easy, and then all of a sudden like he's no longer perfect, and then like everyone has has the opportunity to just like show how two-faced they are. And that I thought was a really great attack on just his sense of self and like the sense of and like his sense of how the world worked. But the murder train just kind of like, it was just physically tormentous, but it wasn't ideologically like it wasn't ideologically awful. So it just, I don't see how that played into like the wearing him down like plan machinations that Bai Wuxian has. Let's see. He didn't want to tell them the cure because he didn't want to make them murderers, and the fact that people still went through with the murder actually hurting and maiming him made him give up a bit. I think his parents dying was the real final breakthrough there. Yeah, his parents dying was the final straw. So that was Aurelia in the chat, and I see your point. The thing of it is that I read that as he didn't want them to start killing each other. Like, that's what he was scared of, was that they were all going to, they were all just going to start murdering each other to save themselves. But when the option of just hurting and maiming him was enough, so none of them had to die, it kind of became a sort of those, oh god, what is that Ursula K. Le Guin story? It's a beautiful short story. Ursula K. Le oh yeah, those are the ones who walk away from Omla or Omle or Omles or whatever. Yes, Le Guin, she's wonderful. But it's like that short story where like there's a utopia, but the only way that exists is if one person like receives just all the pain and torment, and everyone is in on, like, it's not a secret amongst the society, and they all kind of agree to perpetuating that system, and so like everything's perfect except for this one person. And in this instance, like Xielian it felt like he would have volunteered that to keep the people from killing each other, because that's what I thought Bai Wuxian wanted, was that he wanted them to just start murdering each other to save themselves. And then like Xielian's all about the third option, and so all of a sudden there's a third option, but it's not but like it's not played as a third option, it's played as like a continuing of this mind game that's going on, and I just don't necessarily see how it connects, which is a little bit frustrating, because that was like the straw right before the straw that broke the camel's back. But yeah, and then what's interesting, a lot of Chinese wellness is how the masses, common people, play in developing the main main love is the gossip perceptions. Yeah, like gossip is a huge thing in this one. Gossip and like perception and stuff. But and then the other thing is when like at the very end, when Chunwo shows up again and saves the day, and then we find out that Xielian was the one who put the shackles on himself. Like, he asked for the shackles, it wasn't something that was put on him. And then that they're like, I knew that their fight like was like wasn't I had learned that their fight wasn't that big of a deal. I needed to know that for some lines in season 2 to make sure that like I was appropriately talking about a subject. And like I think it was like episode 1 of season 2 where people are referencing like him, like the attack. And I had honestly hoped that like he had, like, part of that was that he had learned something about Chunwo that like made him disgusted with him, and he ascended and just immediately attacked him out of retribution, or out of just like a knee-jerk immature reaction of like you deserve to be cut down or something, and then being being browbeaten, and then his wanderings of 800 years is sort of this weird, like, humbling, and then the story that we get is sort of this journey of Xielian kind of like learning that multiple things could be true at the same time, where it was like he was, he may have been wrong in that moment, but like Chunwo deserved, to be knocked down or whatever. Like, it wasn't, like, his ethics still had value. So it was a little disappointing for that, especially because of how the cursed chains have been depicted up to this point, where like it's really upsetting for like Hua Cheng or someone to see them, but then Xielian just kind of dismisses them, and then it's like, oh, and like that's very of his character, where he just dismisses any discomfort that he has, and then you find out like, oh no, I did this to myself, and it's like, why aren't you telling people that? why are you keeping that shit to yourself? It really feels like a thing that was not planned super well, because like there's no reason. I could see why he wouldn't like lead with that information, but at some point, especially with how often like his lack of being able to use his own spiritual power comes up in the story, you would think that he would just at the very least tell Hua Cheng that like, oh no, I did this, like I did this to myself. I asked for this, literally. He lost his first shackle, and then he asked to be banished again with both shackles. And so I just thought that was a little disappointing. And then the other thing that I thought was super weird, he's ashamed of the reason that he has them. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. It was sort of a scarlet letter of how far of what he almost did. And yes, I'm certain that Hua Cheng blames himself. But another thing that I thought was weird was that the flashback ends with Xielian seemingly to be in a good place. Like, he seems to be in the same place emotionally that we see him at the beginning of the series, or at the very least at like the beginning of that journey. But his time as Fangxin seemed to be a dark moment in his past. Like, he didn't seem like he seemed like he was still lost, like he was still angry. And so like that moment, I don't know if that specific moment like is immediate after he comes after his banishment, or if that's like some time after his banishment, where like that moment is after the whole Fangxin stuff. But it I am curious as to like how long it is between his second banishment and when he becomes Fangxin. Because just like how he's depicted, like how that it's a couple hundred years. Yeah, that's what I thought. And so like what happened then to make him just kind of like bitter, or just not, or like just to not feel like to sort of still not understand like what opinion is worth having. Let's see. It was like 400 years after, 200 years before the start of book 1, something like that. I don't know, because it's I think it's longer than 200 years, because the Crescent, the Banyue arc, I think, is like a couple of hundred years before the start of book 1. And Yong'an, that happened like 100 years before that, I think. So yeah, it's all these are, near immortal gods. It's all hundreds of years apart of each other. But it was, I think this was kind of for me, I wish the book had gone harder. I think up until this point, like the things that we had, like especially in the first flashback with him, with the fall of Xianla, I think that was really good because it was this like he was trying to keep everything together, and that was like the first moment when he alone wasn't enough, and he was trying to do everything himself because everything had worked up into that point, and and not only does it fail, but like people die, like he causes a lot of suffering, um and he loses everything because he does this thing that everyone tells him he shouldn't do. This this arc just kind of feels like an angry teenager which he is at this point, but it was just like an angry teenager um who someone keeps picking on him, and so like and he just wants everyone to stop picking on him, and then when he gets to a point where he's like, stop picking on me or I'll kill all of you, he kind of wakes up immediately and was like, oh shit, that's dark, and just backs out of it. And like the switch from like preparing to unleash the multi-face disease to like pinning him in the middle of the ground, like that was so sudden, and there wasn't really any like we didn't know what his plan was, and it just sort of felt like a weird reaction of like, I like, this is the only way I can stop myself from pressing the button. So it was so strange. And it was like the only kind of like logic or like thought process behind it was by Wushan like saying, oh, this is what you want to do, or like, is this what you're trying to do? You're trying to the skip to the hole in the earth is really weird, but it's like, oh, you're trying to see if someone will come and help you or something like that, which like it really didn't seem like that was his plan. He just sort of like pivoted once that idea was put in his head. And so that was just super, I don't know, that was just super weird. And so I am frustrated with this was first of all, this is by far the best book I've read so far. Like, I think book 5 had a lot of really good like mystery building and stuff in it, and then the stuff on Mount Tonglu was great. Like learning, like, oh god, the scene when Hua Cheng is healing Xielian from all the frostbite, and then Bai Wuxian in disguise shows up, and he's just like, I wish I could murder like Mu Qing and Feng Xin. I was just like, oh fuck, that's dark. Like he started getting scary at that point. That was the first time that I was reading where Hua Cheng was just like, oh wait, are you the villain? Because we got to learn like why he has this sort of personal vendetta against Feng Xin specifically, which it made sense, and it was Green Day it was a great red herring moment, because it was a perfect it was a near perfect red herring moment, because it was character development for Hua Cheng. Like, we were getting honest, sort of honest information from Hua Cheng, but it was but it was in the service of like kind of keeping a ruse going on. So it was like we could trust what he was saying, but we didn't understand what was going on. There was still that disconnect there. God, it was such a good scene. And then all of a sudden finding out that like Hua Cheng is Spider-Man, but with butterflies. Like, he could shoot butterfly silk, which I was like, why haven't we had that before? Because that seemed like it would be kind of cool. Like him. Although if he is a Spider-Man, he's Ben Reilly Spider-Man, and Xielian is Peter Parker Spider-Man, because Peter Parker is driven by guilt, and that is definitely what Oh God, who would be Miles Morales? Miles Morales would be Miles Morales would be Long Chen Cho, something like that. Chirong would be the Green Goblin. Let's see. Actually, no, he wouldn't be Ben Reilly Spider-Man. Hua Cheng wouldn't be Ben Reilly Spider-Man. He would be 2099 Spider-Man. That's who he would be. And then let's see. Windmaster would be okay. So there is a canonically gay Spider-Man called Web Weaver who recently came out, who I think Windmaster would definitely fit the bill on that. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'm certain there's like everyone's got like a Spider-Verse allegory at some point. I could isn't Spider-Man bi? No. People have talked about him being bi. I think in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they talked about him like possibly being bi or something like that. But Spider-Man is not. Tim Drake is bi. Tim Drake is canonically bi. He recently came out. But yeah, there's not a lot of queer people in the Spider-Verse, if I remember correctly. I mean, I think in the movies there's definitely Blackwater is Venom. Oh hell yeah. Yeah, Hirschwan is 100% like fucking not Flash Thompson. I think it was like I forget who had Venom, who's like the most iconic Venom, but it was the Venom run that Donny Cates wrote for like 3 years. Eddie Brock, thank you. Yeah, he's definitely Eddie Brock. He's 100% Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock Spider-Man. But yeah, and then Chirong would be Carnage. Well, no, Chirong would be Green Goblin, but Sam Raimi Green Goblin, Bai Wuxian would be Carnage. Although technically there is a white symbiote named there's Anti-Venom, which is like a white and black symbiote, and then there's Shriek, who's a female one, who would be Shriek would be Xuanji, I believe. Is that a Hawaiian blanket on? Is that a Hawaiian blanket on James's bed? Is that a Hawaiian blanket on my bed? No, that's weird. Sorry. Yes, I am lost in the sauce. Chunwo is Iron Man if Iron Man was evil. He's not. No, I get the Iron Man thing because of the armor, but no, he would be like Joe Cass. He would be like I think it's Joe Cassidy who's Carnage, but he would be like Joe Cassidy Carnage. What about Hualian kissing? That was that was cute. I think there's more kissing in book 7, which I've started book 7. I think I'm like 100 pages in. Was begging for the confession scene. Oh god, yeah, I forgot about the confession scene. That was so fucking adorable. That was just so goddamn adorable. Like it was just so fucking cute. And it was very like, I love you, I know, but it was but if Leia got to say it, which she technically did in Return of the Jedi, but like, yeah, he was just like, he was just so scared he couldn't say it, and then Xielian's just like, yeah, I kind of figured that out a while back. That was another thing that kind of threw me, was that Xielian knew who Fu Yao and Nanfang were from the very beginning. And while that makes sense, there's just like there was it raises just a bunch of questions of sort of like, well, why did you let this go? Like, why didn't you say anything for so long? And I get the whole like saving face thing. Like, there were reasons for it, but it just feels like, yeah, no, their disguises were shit and they were horrible actors. Like, it was very clear who they were from the beginning. Like, there was no real mystery there. And I think it was just kind of weird that it went on for as long as it did. You know, like, rather than like, you know, someone just sort of admitting it right off the bat. Let's see. MXTX gives the audience hints about things, but never shows that Xielian. Hold on, it keeps moving. Picked up on some things, and I feel like it leads to a lot of but he actually knew this whole time stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's fair. It's strange because book 6 feels like one of the better written ones, but it also feels like the biggest mess. Where like we got a bunch of like answers to stuff that really didn't feel to me like they paid off in the ways that I was wanting to. Like they paid off, but not in a really compelling or interesting way to me, like something that gripped me while I was reading it. Well, with the flashbacks, everything leading up to the flashback, like everything in Tonglu and stuff like that all was awesome. But like the whole like learning the flashback stuff actually kind of takes away some of the tension and drama from earlier books, because we find out that, you know, that like the shackles were his choice, that like he is guilt ridden, but it's this very weird thing. And I feel like it's a very weird thing for me to talk about too as a cishet white guy, because it's sort of like but he didn't do the thing, you know, and he deserves some sort of like ire, he deserves some sort of retribution for, you know, summoning the you know, for doing all the things that led up to him almost killing like you know, thousands of people, but he didn't actually do it. And so to me, that's like, okay, that's its own thing, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's that you treat it the same way as if he had done it. And that nuance isn't there. It's just sort of treated like he just sort of treated as like his guilt is justified, or his guilt is all in his head, or something like that. I don't know exactly what the intent was for us taking away from that whole journey. So one of those poignant scenes for me was when Xielian was drinking the alcohol by the grave and swearing for the first time and passed out after climbing out of the grave. That was a little funny, because he was so bad at swearing. I think it was one of those like, oh shit moments, because we had never seen him do anything like that before, and so we're like, oh wow, like he's so angry, and he is you know, he's so angry, and he's in such a dark place that he's doing things he never would do before. And so you know, so like that was a powerful moment, I would say. The shackles are mostly for Wuming's death. Wuming just kind of disappeared. Like, we don't really know what happened to him, and I think Xielian just sort of assumed that he just kind of like wandered off or something. Like, he just sort of disappeared. I mean, he did. Well, so that's the other thing too, is that like he did do those things. We saw that in the first flashback, where he is responsible for the deaths of thousands. He is, you know, he did do a genocide. Like he did do all of these villainous things, and that stuff was great. Then when we kind of revisit him, like after that happens, this feels so like pouty and angsty, and not challenging him in a way that was interesting to me. Like, he really didn't feel like he was being challenged at all. He just felt like he was getting kicked while he was down, And so that wasn't interesting for me to see. Like, it just sort of felt like, like someone was just pouring salt on the wounds for like 200 pages. And that was, that was just sort of like, He did a Voldemort? No, Voldemort went like full, white supremacist Nazi, and Xielian's never done that. Oh yeah, that's right. Bai Wuxian did say that Wuming had been ripped apart. That's right. I forgot about that. No, he was a brat. Like that was. I agree that he was a brat, and like that needed, he needed to go through that phase. What I think is missing from all of this, because at the end of it, it feels like he's not that he's like learned his lesson, but that he's on the right path now. But I don't think, in seeing what he went through, it just felt like him pouting. It didn't feel like he was pouting, and then that was being buttressed again. That was being challenged by an ideology that would then force him to grow, or force him to kind of be more of the closer to responsible adult that we see at the beginning of the series. You've disintegrated. Yeah. So that I think what was missing. I think we almost got there in certain scenes. But there wasn't any sort of challenge there. I saw someone describe it as Xielian already had the values that he ends up with, but it wasn't the torture that taught him to see the good in humanity, but it was that he had to unlearn what the torture taught him, which might explain why his characterization kind of circles back around. I think that's a very interesting take. I don't necessarily agree. Well, that is, I want to agree with that, because I felt like that's where it was going. I felt like that's where the story was kind of headed to, but but the place that he is at when he ascends the second time feels like, he's gone through like his oh god, what is the acronym, or there's an anachronism. Long Dark. He's gone through like his long dark tea time of the soul, and he's come out on the other side of it, and like he felt like he was kind of where he was supposed to be, not necessarily that he was at the beginning of a journey like that. Like the version of him at the end of book 6 does not feel like someone who would become Feng Xin later. It did not feel like someone who would make the mistakes that he made as Feng Xin. And so like that was just kind of weird to me. And especially because and it was interesting too, because it was like, because he chose not to kill everybody like that like where it was an active thing on his part. I feel like kind of undercuts like I feel like him choosing not to do that is a better thing to see at the end of the book, rather than in that flashback, where I think if like he almost did it and then something prevented him from doing it, like something happened and he wasn't able to do it, and only then after when that's taken away from him does he realize what he was doing. I feel like then the guilt is warranted. But because he had a moment of clarity and just sort of off screen, and then all of a sudden is like, hang on, I don't want to do this, and then just kind of like decides to just sort of sit and not participate, like just it's just it just doesn't move anything forward for me. See, I feel like Xielian's arc is learning that he doesn't need to punish himself for being imperfect and having dark feelings. He seems to think because he messed up in the past, his own pain doesn't matter. I agree, but this is kind of a moment where like it's not that hard to me, it's not that hard to pick apart the idea that like he didn't mess up in the way that he messed up, because it feels like he's carrying the weight of not only destroying Xianle, but then also like nearly destroying Yong'an, or like just like it's like it's like he's carrying the weight of like destroying Xianle and then out of retribution destroying Yong'an, which he didn't do. He did do some things, but he didn't do that. And so like you could easily be like, hey, that's not true. And you could, like Hua Cheng could very easily be like, no, that you didn't do that. But I don't know. It was it was just a bit of a mess. And again, like it does still feel like there are still pieces missing. Like there are still like bits here and there that may give like more context to these moments. But I don't know. We're so close to the end. I really don't know. But yeah. Let's see. What is it? We don't really know, but I don't think it would have been more than 100 years because like he disintegrated before. Oh, okay, that's just Hua Cheng stuff. I think Baiwashan was waiting for Xielian to admit that he actually wouldn't do anything to save the common people, and I think Xielian was only able to ignore his jealousy of Fengxian because of his jealousy as Fengxian because of what he had learned of his past. Jealousy? I don't think he ever had issues with jealousy. It was always about like guilt and perfectionism. Like his whole thing is like he hates, like he has almost like a neurodivergent aversion to the end of things. And like he brought about the end of his whole life essentially, and so like learning to be okay with failure is kind of like a whole, like his whole journey really. Would kill for Hua Cheng POV? I mean, it'd be a very different story. It would be like him and Yin Yu like doing like like James Bond level spy espionage shit of just like learning a bunch of stuff and sneaking in places, which would be cool, but it'd be a very different story. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any less action, more Victorian romance. Was there any other scenes that you guys wanted me to like get my opinions on? The Ghostfire scene was super cute. She had to be like him, but then she only told him heart in the best body in Paris just mess him up so much. Yeah. No Paths Are Bound fanfic. Yeah, I think I read the first one. Him and Yin Yu vibing. Yes, definitely. Did you like the art in this volume? I don't remember the art in this volume. The cover's gorgeous. I think it was more. I think I read this mostly on a plane, so I think I was trying to like hide most of the art because some of it was just. Oh God, yeah, the murder scene. God, the stabbing scene is just intense. And then there's Wu Ming, and then there's just like the rando guy who helps him. Yeah, it was pretty. Let's see faces. Bummer Realize question. What do you think about Hua Cheng saying you wouldn't act on it in season 2, episode 11 now? Yeah, that definitely has more context to it now. Where where it was just like, oh yeah, no, he's seen him like get to that place and he's just like, nah. I'm very happy at how I played that line now because I think it has an appropriate level of like no, like just sweet summer child energy to it, that I think it has the appropriate like foreshadowing in the line in my performance that will pay off once we know that like he was there at his lowest point and saw him back off and not do something like that. while reading book 6 change how you feel about Hua Cheng since you get to see his backstory a bit more? My every time that I learn more about Hua Cheng's backstory, it never changes what I think about him, but it does help inform my understanding of him, if that makes any sense. Where you know, like I think what's been fun for me, hello kitty, what's been fun for me about like learning more about Hua Cheng is that like I picked up pretty much exactly who he was very early on, and I just kind of keep getting proven right. Which is really nice. It makes me feel smart. And I think what's really fun is that like I'm still right about like who he is as a character, but we're getting to know like the whys and how those play into everything. I think is really interesting. I think it ends up helping me understand like him as a character more rather than his devotion to Xielian, because I think that's the least interesting thing about him. I think the most interesting thing about him is that like the devotion's there. The devotion is like as intense as everyone, you know, sees it, but he's also got like a full life and personality and just all these other things underneath it, and learning how that came to be was really cool. So it's like I have a better understanding of who he is, but I don't have a different understanding of who he is. Do you think it might change how you play him or write him in season 3 based off of my new understanding of Hua Cheng? No. No, I think I'm on the right track. I think if anything, this would just reading this specific, like reading book 6 specifically, would just inform how I would play him how I would play him in flashbacks, because in, you know, like if there is a season 3 and we see his younger version, like I would definitely I think I would play him more immature than I think initially would have. I think I would have kind of kept some of his adult aspects of him in there, but I think that now sort of seeing is like, oh yeah, that's right, he was just kind of a dumb kid. And just sort of seeing how like weirdly intense he was too. So just like this very weird intense kid would be, you know, I think that's kind of how I would adjust. What did I think of the 33 God scene? It was frustrating, but in a good way, because it was just all about like I get viscerally angry at like scenes where the problem is like perception, where it's like if someone does the thing that would immediately resolve the problem, that will make it worse in some way, or that'll just like make them look bad, or you know, or someone imposing an interpretation of someone's character based off of a lie, but them being powerless to change anything, so they just have to sit and take it. Like those are physically painful for me to go through. So I hated reading it. Like I wanted them all to die. And like fuck Mooching. Mooching, like I get it. He just sucks. Like, and I get why he's a catty bitch. It's just because he sucks. it's just, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you just like I get it. You know, you're a survivor. Like you tried to make amends. You know, like you tried to apologize, but yeah, you just kind of suck. And like you know, and all that arrogance is just, you know, a front for just how much you know you suck. But yeah. So oh, breaking your mod's heart. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, like, you know, he goes on a journey, he learns. But he also just is just a piece of shit. Like, before, I had thought of him as like someone who, like he was someone who was unjustly, uh, like people had unjust prejudice against him, you know, like because he was lower class, that people just kind of assumed he was a thief. People looked down on him, and then he's that friend that like once they get popular friends, they ignore you. You know, it's like it's like a Mean Girls thing where, you know, one friend gets boobs over the summer and then all of a sudden starts hanging out with the popular kids and then pretends that they never knew this one friend that they'd had their entire lives. And you're just like, yeah, I get it. You know, it's not a completely confusing you know, like decision to make, but also fuck you. Like, you suck. Like, you're a coward. Like, you just really fucking suck, and you've got some apologizing to do. And I think he just feels like really really guilty over doing that. And then the fact that Xielian like refused to accept his apology, I think also was really telling. Cattywampus. Nice. So yeah, so that was but yeah, the 33 God scenes was good, because I think it was like a very good sort of expression of like the kind of problem that he was dealing with, especially like all like just seeing how shitty the gods are, because we've seen how catty the gods are now, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, even like at every level they're just petty bitches. And then I'm pretty sure those 33 gods are the ones that that Hua Cheng like fought and kicked the shit out of. So yes, yeah. So like seeing that and then knowing that that's what was going to happen to them later kind of like helped me get through that. Yeah, because he was there. That's right. He was a little ghost fire. Yeah. That's something I think is interesting with Hua Cheng, is that like Hua Cheng has a lot of like deep resentment to people who have hurt Xielian, but it's not because they've hurt Xielian necessarily. He's also been in those situations and they've done shitty things to him too. You know, like they were you know, like Baiwei-san was crushing, like, you know, like nearly killed him. The 33 gods were like, you know, being pieces of shit to him. Qirong, you know, dragged him through the city. Like, he has reasons to hate these people too, on top of them messing with his man. And so I think I think that's honestly, that's like a kind of a relief that he has reasons to be invested in Xielian's life beyond like that is just Xielian. Like, he has, you know, he has shit to deal with himself. He has beefs with these people that are not specifically bound to this one person. And I think that makes him a more fully rounded character, which is nice. What do I think about Xielian's ability to swallow swords? I mean, you know, this thing he can do. He mostly crushed boulders on his chest, you know, which, you know, just a lot of like, you know, there was a lot of boulder crushing on chests. That's why the scene with San Long throwing a broom at him. Yeah, oh yeah, with him throwing the broom at him hits different. When him fucking with those guys in season 1, I kind of wish I had known that now when recording season 1, because I think I would have upped the caddy a lot more. Because in that moment, I think it works for season 1 because you don't know this information, so like it's easy to just sort of see it as like him being like just being a shit because he knows that like they don't like him and he just wants to hang around his boyfriend. Like he's like the bad boyfriend that the parents don't like, and so he's just kind of egging them on. But knowing that he has a personal reason to not like both of them, you know, I think would have definitely informed definitely have informed my performance a bit more. Real Hua Cheng mooching beef right now. I'm sorry. Like, Did book 6 illuminate anything about Qirong for you, seeing the fall of Xianla? No, it didn't. It didn't give me any insight into Qirong. You know, like, because he's just kind of like he's sort of presumed dead at this point. Like, they don't even mention him in the flashback. He is that irrelevant. So you know, like, that's so that's not really much of it. It didn't really give me any new insight into Qirong. Book 2, I think, gave me more insight into Qirong than any other thing so far. Except Qirong's father is an abusive shit. Oh, I haven't seen his. I don't think we've seen his father yet. How far am I into book 7? Windmaster has shown up again. That's how far I am into book 7. Do I miss playing Hua Cheng? No, because I strongly suspect that I'll come back and play him later. And, like, this still is such a big part of my life anyway that even though I'm not voicing him specifically, it feels like it hasn't stopped, just sort of changed a little bit. You know, like, we're doing the signings and stuff like that. Like, I'm still kind of engaged in the world. I think if it all stopped and, like, no one was taught, like, I think I had more of a loss, or I felt it more between seasons 1 and 2 than now, because the impact of season 2, I think, is much bigger. And so, like, there's still, like, I get people asking me to, you know, go to cons and stuff. So, like, it still feels like we're riding high off of season 2. So who's your least favorite character? I don't really have one. I think yeah, I don't really have a least favorite character. There's no one that shows up that I get, like, frustrated or upset about if they're there. So I don't have a least favorite right now. See, are we gonna get a room at James, we are gonna get you a room at the Vista Mall for how often I get invited. Yeah, I'm surprised they keep inviting me. I know the owner of that con, and you know, not like super well, but, like, we've known him for a few years. Oh, you keep asking them to invite me. Oh, okay, that's fine. You know, like, if you're asking and he invites, I'm gonna say, yeah, it's a super easy con for me to go to. It's like, you know, it's I live really close to the mall. Oh, you hate going there? You don't have to go. It is like a sad, empty place. Am I going to WeebCon? No, I was not invited. Not the monks in Heaven's Eye. Yeah, I laughed when the monks showed up again. I thought that was really fucking funny. You're gonna fly to Texas personally to defend mooching? That is your prerogative. Am I going to Akon in June? I was not invited. So I would love to go, but I was not invited. See. Oh, Akon was canceled? Oh wait, that's right, it was. Or they, like, moved it. No, they moved it. It's not happening when it normally happens, if I remember correctly. Am I going to San Japan? I was not invited. Or I have not been invited yet, so as of right now, no. We invited to so many cons. The cons have to reach out to me, or I have to, or you know, like there's some sort of connection with the cons have to happen before I get invited to places. Oh, you invited me to the Anime Uwu market again? Those guys are awesome. I like the Anime Yankee guys. So yeah, I'd totally be down. and just get as many people to go. The East Coast cons are being jerks. Oh man. Yeah, they were really cool. They're just good folks. I actually I've gotten to know them over the past like 2 years, but how I first met them was that I had heard of them a while back. Like I think someone had mentioned that like someone that they knew opened an anime shop in the mall or something like that. And so I just went there to check it out, and then I saw that they had a bunch of Heaven Officials blessing stuff. And so I went up to the owner and I was like, or one of the owners, and I was like, "Hey, can I ask you a very vain question? If I voice that person, can I get a discount?" And so they gave me like a 10% discount because I signed some stuff. And so like I would just pop in every now and again. And then after doing the UuCon, like I gotten to know them a lot better. And so now I've got like a standing invitation, which is really cool. CrackleCon, I mean, let's play CrackleCon right now. I mean, like, cons are fucking expensive. I don't know. Like, honest answer, I have no fucking idea. I know that fucking, Todd Habercorn had a convention around him. Cracker Barrel, what the fuck? But yeah, like, he had, like, HaberCon or some shit. That's where, like, Morgan Berry got her start. Which is weird. Like, this is weird. And CrackleCon would be so cursed. It would be cursed. What do I think of Baby Cheek? Very weird. Like that seems. You said it was like you guys said it was like a Sims like family or something, and so I'm just like, oh, it's obviously that just means it just means it's all unhinged and weird. Well, I don't know the context other than I don't know the context of Baby Cheek other than Baby Cheek exists. So I guess that's kind of what it is. This is your monster if we just watch over it. That's fair. Xielian had a baby and his name is Cheek. Oh God. Of course Karen would love it. It was I mean, it's better than just naming it James, that's definitely for sure. I mean, I would love to go back to Copenhagen. That was a fun time. What did you think of the family tree and that I'm Jesus Christ? I mean, like, I enjoy a bit of blasphemy as much as the next guy. I just like I still don't get the full context of it. So like I just see it and I'm just like, oh, there's just a bunch of lines. And I was like, oh, this is just a bunch of like in jokes for people who are more active on the Discord than I am. Oh, nice. You became part of the organized team just to bring me back. Oh, that's really funny, Nano. Yeah, you guys don't get it either. That's fine. If you do bring me back, you gotta get like Howard or someone else too to come with me. You know, yes, there are many, many lines. Getting the tea on James being considered this. I mean, like everyone kind of knows that I'm just like the well-meaning uncle who's on babysitting duty, and I'm just like, cool, you guys can take care of yourselves, right? And like I just come in to make sure you're not dead. That's kind of how it works. Pay Blang, God, I think that's so funny that Pay Blang became a thing. What I'm drinking, it's cold brew with dulce de leche and caramel sauce. It's just because I needed caffeine. Have I seen the Vines? I think I've seen some of them. Or are you talking about the TikToks? Because Vine doesn't exist anymore. Sims to go to the restroom and comes back and house on fire. Yeah, that's very, very true. What did I notice about the Wuyong profile pictures and what did I think? I thought it was funny actually that you guys were able to organize like so much of that. And like just right off the bat, just like everyone had a Wuyong mask. I thought that was fun. I thought it was more fun that you guys did it and that was like something that you guys did and that because I know you guys wanted me to join in, but I thought it was more fun if it was just a you thing and I was just sort of like opening the door and then closing it. I thought it was more fun that way. So yeah, that was yeah, I thought that was just like a fun little bit of craziness. Have I read or watched Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation? I have. I actually did it with the Discord. I watched the Untamed and the Donghua. So I watched both. I have not read it because I watched it twice. I don't have a strong. I know that I'm like mainly missing the porny bits, so I don't feel a strong need to read them. Let's see. I was so confused because I cosplayed Wu Ming that day and came home and to see a bunch of Wu Mings in the server. Yeah, that was a super weird day. That was super weird. You missed the watch party. Yeah, that was God, that was like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. That was back when I was streaming regularly. But yeah, I still need to do the scum villain like thing. I think what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna do like the scum villain / Gallivant thing where we'll watch like the first episode or like the first 2 episodes of Gallivant and like the first 2 episodes of Scum Villain. Because I don't unfortunately don't have time to do a full watch through of Gallivant with everybody. But I need to introduce you guys to Gallivant because Gallivant's just such an amazing show. Yeah, of course I remember Gallivant. So, and someone asked about the Kiss Kiss Boba thing. That was great. Like it was nice. Especially like running into Ulysses. Because that was I didn't expect her or them to ever really run into them in the wild, and so like the fact that I got to do that was cool. Do you know what Texas cons you'll be in as of right now? No, if there's no announcement of it, then then even if I have signed a contract with somewhere, I can't talk about it. So the only Texas con I can talk about is the Dallas Comic Show, which is in April. Because that's been like confirmed, which that happened real quick. He just asked me and I was like, yeah, and then immediately on there. Yeah, at some point I think I'm gonna do a Princess Bride watch party with everybody, just because like I keep talking about it so much, and it's kind of taken off in the Discord enough to where I'm like, cool, we gotta watch it one day. Everybody want a peanut? All right, so unless like we seem to be gotten away from everything now, so unless there's any like dying questions, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. I do want to say, so I will be yes, the Princess Bride AU is real and it's awesome. I do want to say that I am going to be auctioning off my copy, the copy that I read of volume 6, just like all the other things that I'll be doing. But this time I also have a special a special extra thing, which is this little plate signed by myself and Howard. And so I'll be auctioning that off in addition with a book. Still eBay, because I don't have a international online auction house thing to do. So like I don't know. I have not figured out how to do that. Make it a VC auction. I don't know what that is. But I'll just be putting that up on eBay. I'll probably be doing that tomorrow. So just to give everybody some time, and I'll announce it. Auction on voice chat? No, I'm not paying that much attention to it. I'm just gonna like put some information and just let it go. But I'll announce that on Twitter once the auction's open. I'll probably keep it open for about maybe 2 weeks, probably like 22nd, I think is when I'll close it. And so, then the proceeds will be going to Equality Texas, like they always do, unless I discover a different queer charity to give to. On a scale of 1 to 10, how was book 6? Book 6 was a strong like 8.5. Like it would have been like the first third was a solid like 9.5, 10, and then the back half was like a solid 8, so it kind of balances out to an 8.5. So far book 7's a 10 because there's giant fucking robot fights and I'm just here for it. So that was so cool. That was so cool. Smut would have made it 10, maybe. But yeah, so I'll look out for on Twitter for when the auction is live. What's my favorite arc so far? The Tonglu, Mount Tonglu arc. I think that's like the strongest one so far, even from beginning to end. That's been the strongest. I also wanted to do some thank you shout outs for people in the chat. Serenity, I got the pin that you sent. This was really nice of you, especially after the first one disappeared in the mail. And so you know, giving me this other one that you had, you really didn't have to do that. You really didn't have to do that. And I probably would have sent it back if you hadn't already mentioned that there were new pins coming. So it's, you know, so I'm like, oh, okay. I need to get like a thing to put on my pins because I got a bunch of pins that some really cool ones. Like I got this one. They're not Heaven Official's Blessing, but like I got this one, which was during the Black Lives Matter protest because it's just super sick and money went to charity. And then my brother got me this a few years ago, which is a Ancient Magus' Bride Keyblade, which is just so fucking cool. And then I have pins from an artist buddy of mine, who he's a local Texas artist here, and he does Godzilla. They're just super cool. But yeah, so thank you for sending this. It's very pretty, and I appreciate it. But I need to get like a one of those like pin bags or something to just put them all on display. And then also, have I seen Hazbin Hotel? So okay, I don't like answering this question because my answer is disappointing. The answer is no, because I really didn't like the pilot. I auditioned for the pilot when it came out all those years ago. I actually sent the audition sides to Jill Harris, who plays Charlie in the pilot. And so like I don't know if she had come across it beforehand, but I like to think that I kind of helped make that happen. And I remember reading the audition sides and being like, this world makes no sense. Like this world makes no sense, and it didn't seem like it was very thoughtfully written. And then when I watched the pilot, all of those suspicions were confirmed, and then everything I have seen of the show just continues to reinforce that, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is exactly the thing I thought it was, and it was not something that I like. So like, and it's just super frustrating because it's something I want to like because it means a lot to a lot of people, and it could be interesting, and it's a musical, and I fucking love musicals, but like I can't even get behind the songs. Like I listen to the songs and they just seem so like immature is the only word that comes to mind, where it's like someone who's never written a song before just has a rhyming dictionary and then only wrote lyrics and then gave them to a composer and told them to make it work. And you know, depending on who composed them, you know, like a Loser is like has like really popped off. People think it's a bop, and I'm just like, it's not very interesting. It's also weirdly like sex negative for a show all about fucking queerness and shit like that, because like, you know, it's because he's just sort of embracing like the shame of it all rather than being empowered by it. It's so frustrating. I'm sorry. I'm getting in the fucking weeds here. Pilot for Hazbin Hotel. Who did I audition for? I auditioned for the Radio Demon. And I remember that audition because it was really frustrating because like looking back, I can hear what I did that didn't match what she wanted, and that there was like, I don't know if I would have gotten cast if I'd done like everything right, quote unquote. Alistair, yeah. But I think I could have done something that was more in line with what ended up happening, and I was curious what that would be, because the references that she gave was Richard Gere, or one of the references that she gave was Richard Gere in Chicago, in the Reached for the Gun song, and that's a very like, you know, it's the same like old-timey voice, but it's very you know, but it's very like more campy, and that definitely needed to be a part of the voice, but I didn't play the fact that the character was a demon. So it was more comedic. It wasn't like it wasn't like scary or dangerous at all, which it needed to be. Oh, Kira, did you audition for Alistair? Because I also saw Angel Dust, and I was like, oh, I could do Angel Dust. I do not want to do Angel Dust. Because, like, I read Angel Dust's sides, and it was just like, he's addicted to drugs. And I'm just like, why the fuck are there drugs in hell? That makes no sense. Why there are drugs in hell. Drugs are an escape. Drugs are a pleasure. Drugs are a thing that you do to feel good. Why is there a means to feel good in hell? Like, and it's just hell is just New York. Like, the metaphor, it's not even a metaphor. Like, it's just people pronouncing New York wrong. And so it's just like, you know, so it's like, oh, okay, I guess you didn't like New York or something. But they just, it's just so frustrating how, like, it's very clear. Actually, no, I'm getting it. I'm getting in the weeds. I'm not doing this. But yeah, needless to say, it's frustrating. But yeah, so thank you for the pin. Back on track. Thank you for the pin. And Emma, thank you for the wonderful magazine, with the just absolute delicious, you know, little glam shot cover here, and something that I'm super excited about is that it came with this Buchigiri poster, which I'm not gonna unfold all of it. I'll just unfold half of it. But I am so excited about this because I am friends with Alex Mai, who plays the lead in that show, and that's his first lead role, and I'm very excited to be able to give him Buchigiri merch because he deserves it. Because my God, you know, that man's been hoofing it longer than I have, and like, he's deserved a lead for a long time, and he finally got one. So yeah, so that was great. So thank you for the gifts, everybody. I will, you know, come back again for the next book review once that's done. So I will draw you so much for your bullshit to get those little ghost Wallians from you. No, those ghost ones are mine. RC, what are you working on now? What am I working on now so we can support you? I'm currently writing The Witch and the Beast. That's one show. That's one of the shows I have this season. The other show that I have this season technically was assigned to me, but I've only written one episode of because how the last season played out. was that there was just a bunch of stuff from that season that kept needing to be done. Like there was a 3-week delay in Heaven Official's Blessing, so it went 3 weeks into this current season, and then after that there was some Ancient Magus' Bride stuff that I needed to do, and then I had like some time off and other things like cons and things like that. So it's I believe the person who's been covering for me this whole time is Madeline Morris. And that is basically her, and the show is called Hokkaido Gals, or Super Adorable. And Madeline's been doing a phenomenal job with that show. And it's really her show now at this point. So like my name may be connected to it in some way, but like it's really her show, and she's just been killing it. People have been asking what my favorite color is. Blue, but like deep blue, almost like royal blue, like almost like with some hints of purple in it. Yeah, or like a really strong blue, like the not that I support, this is not a statement of support, but like the blue that's on the Israeli flag is a blue that I really like. Thank you, KSSI 23. Computer contrast blue? No, that's a sad blue. That means something bad happened. Long Chin Show blue. Yes. Yeah, kind of like Long Chin Show blue, actually. Okay. Well, I believe that's about it. I'm going to call it and end the stream. So thanks for coming by, everybody. I will see you for the next book or whatever thing ends up happening. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.